In the studio now, I have Billy Seuss and Andrew Peterson, both with Youth Partnership for Change, or YPC. Guys, thank you so much for coming in.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you very much.
Billy, can you tell us a little bit about what YPC is?
Sure. YPC is actually part of a larger nonprofit here in Austin called Youth Launch. And the vision of Youth Launch, through tons of research that we did, is we believe that young people develop skills and confidence through empowering service experiences. And through those experiences, they grow into healthy, active, community-minded citizens. And so really our goal is to provide service opportunities for young people, a chance to kind of give them, to get them in the mix in societal issues and engage real needs in their community and teach them how to be leaders.
And so Youth Partnership for Change is taking a stance on a specific issue.
Absolutely. Within Youth Launch, there's several issues that we focus on. YPC specifically focuses on the issue of underage drinking. And so that's really where our young people step in and learn about the issue and learn to have a voice speaking into that.
And I think I can say that Youth Launch has a pretty innovative approach to these things, because if you look at some of the programs, which we can talk about real briefly, it takes an approach where you teach students and train students to talk about the issues so that they become involved and they reform their lives if they need that reform, or they gain the confidence, and then they go on to make a change in other people's lives and in the community. So it's a very proactive approach.
And since the issue is underage drinking, it's great that adolescents and younger people are taking up a stance on the issue.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. It would be one thing for an older person to show up and kind of lecture young people, hey, you shouldn't drink, it's bad, here are the reasons why. And there's kind of a generational gap, but when their peers are coming to them, telling them about the issue, it takes on a whole new meaning because it's their friends who are speaking to them.
And Andrew Peterson is one of those, I don't want to call you a youth, but you are one of the younger people involved in this. He is a sophomore in college.
That's right.
And Andrew, how did you get involved with YPC?
Well, I actually received an email through another nonprofit that I used to work with called Austin Voices for Education Youth that does some other opportunities for youth.
Austin Voices for Education and Youth were
That's
just on the
right.
program.
Were they?
They were.
Fantastic. And so it's a general trend of just, like I said, getting youth involved in their communities, and I've had a passion for that since high school. When I saw that email, I'm in college right now. I don't have the opportunity to go out and work a full-time 9-to-5 job, but with this, I get the opportunity to work on my own time and get trained to do something I want to do, and then I have certain flexibility with when I do presentations about alcohol abuse among young people, use and abuse.
Yeah, and what's interesting about YPC that I think makes it stand apart is two things. One, it really is the young people who are speaking out, and they speak to other students, to parents in the community, to pretty much anyone who will listen. And the other thing is we actually hire, train, and pay our community educators to work in this issue. So it actually becomes like a part-time job for them to work in the community and inspire other people.
Billy, what does the approach look like from YPC?
Well, basically, we recently hired 15 students, and we spend a lot of time training them, and they become mini professionals on the issue of underage drinking. They learn the mental and physical effects of alcohol in the body, Texas and nationwide laws on underage drinking, current alcohol marketing strategies that influence underage drinking, empowerment strategies. So we train them, and they learn to do interactive presentations to communicate this material to people in the community. It involves games and different things like that. So it's lighthearted and fun. And so these community educators go speak all around the city and hold these interactive presentations.
So what are you looking for in these community educators, and how do you find them?
Well, our focus is really the age 16 to 21, and we have a mix of high school and college students, really because they're the ones dealing with this issue, and so we want to give them a voice. And so we really recruit age 16 to 21 from local high schools and colleges and community organizations that we have partnerships with.
And as Billy mentioned earlier, I personally think this approach really has some power behind it because, as he said, if you have teachers or authority figures going to talk to youth, there can be a certain level, and it's never intended, but a certain level of feeling of condescension among youth. And there's this cliche, it could never happen to me. I used to see videos in classes and presentations at high school of these horrible, tragic wrecks from drunk driving. It just seems so unreal. But when you get students going up there talking about, for example, if there's a history of alcoholism in their parents' lives, or if they or their parents or someone they know has been involved in an accident, anything like this, it puts this level of kind of a gritty reality into their minds, and it makes them feel, wow, my actions really can have these consequences.
So it's a fairly large issue, underage drinking in the state of Texas.
Oh, actually, Texas leads the nation in underage drinking rates.
And so as I've been reading some of these facts, I've come across some fairly astounding numbers about drinking, underage drinking specifically in Texas. So let's talk a little bit about the issue. What are some of the things that stand out about underage drinking in Texas?
Kind of on a larger scope that really impacts Texas and kind of gives it its place is the Surgeon General in 2007, they did a bunch of research on underage drinking, and they presented a call to action. And it identifies underage drinking as, quote, a major societal problem with enormous health and safety consequences that will demand the nation's attention and committed efforts to resolve. And basically, out of that research, there are a couple things that were really clear, and I think these are huge in Texas. When underage kids are drinking, they're drinking to get drunk. They're starting really young. I think the average age in Texas is just over 12 years old for a kid to have his first drink.
Yeah, 12 and a half is what I read.
Yeah, and which is crazy to think of a 12-year-old drinking alcohol. They're putting themselves in serious danger through accidents, assaults, homicides. It just kind of thrusts them in tons of situations, and they're getting themselves and others in a lot of trouble.
And maybe even another issue that people haven't been considering is the effects that it has on the younger brain, on the adolescent brain.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of research shows that it's not until the mid-20s that the brain really develops, and so it's really open to influence, especially from harmful substances at such a young age. And so when young people drink alcohol, it has a much greater impact on the brain than say, an adult who drinks.
Mm-hmm. And for a great article on the effects of alcohol on the adolescent brain, I actually found a great article on y'all's website. So again, in the studio is Andrew Peterson and Billy Seuss with Youth Partnership for Change, a program of Youth Launch. And the website is youthlaunch.org. Guys, what does the local picture of underage drinking look like?
We have a couple facts about this that we know of right now. There was recently in 2005 an AISD student substance abuse survey, which found that AISD middle school students reported that 17% used alcohol within the last month. 12% thought alcohol was not dangerous to kids their age. 5% thought it was not dangerous at all, and 8% did not know. And with AISD high school students, they reported that 35% used alcohol within the last month, 14% thought that it was not dangerous to kids their age, and 6% thought it was not dangerous at all. 8% did not know. And this is kind of a trend that you will see, which I would add to that, is that generally people in middle school and high school seem to think of alcohol as less of a drug, and there's less of a stigma attached to it because of the availability of it and things like this.
But your website and a lot of the material y'all have notes that it is actually the drug of choice for teenagers.
That's right.
These numbers are incredibly alarming, but that same research showed that 10% of AISD middle school students in 2005 attended class while high, stoned, or drunk. And so 1 out of every 10 middle school students is showing up to school under the influence, which is kind of cast it in a whole new light.
And I don't think this is a surprise to anyone who has gone through middle school in the last couple of years, although it may come as one to parents, in some cases even teachers.
And to me as well. I'll throw myself into that lot.
We also know about our neighbors in Williamson County. 8% of elementary and middle school students have used alcohol, and 40% of high school students have used alcohol there.
So it's not just an issue here in Austin proper, but just all around in surrounding communities.
Not at all. Because when you look and you start to talk to youth, you find that similar issues affect them, whether that be individual reasons.